finds it Hunter. And Virginia with the all-time turnaround title.
Good morning, Wahoo Nation. Grab your coffee because it is time for Wahoo Wake Up, Georgia Tech. As always, I'm your Who's Play Studio producer and Wahoo Wake Up host, Seattle Hoo. Some people call me Fred. And then with me today is our Who's Play Studio podcast host and resident curmudgeon, Val Prohaska.
Well, 9 o'clock in the morning will make anybody curmudgeonly, and you're up too early being over there on the West Coast to be curmudgeonly. You're still waking up. I've been awake for a couple hours, so I've had time to get the curmudgeon on.
So you become the curmudgeon after your first cup of coffee?
Just about. Once I've woken up, and I'm a Diet Coke person, so I don't do the coffee. But,
oh my God.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you're gonna drink that, at least you could put it in one of these, championship mugs.
Well, if I were at home, that would be fine. I'm actually at work right now, so trying to steal in time. So,
all right.
That's my travel cup. So,
all right. Well,
but anyway.
So when we were with you last, we didn't know how well the Hoos were going to do against Clemson, the best team that we had played so far in the ACC at that point. And a lot has happened since then. First, we demolished Clemson, showed them to be paper tigers, and then Georgia Tech really hammered home that point on Wednesday when they shot the lights out against Clemson. We hit 15 out of 27 from three, and then Georgia Tech came in and one-upped us, hitting 16 out of 26.
For 26. Yeah, it was a lights-out performance, so just across the board. And, when you've got, transfer named Jordan Usher coming in going 4 for 4, and you had DeVoe going something like 6 for 6, and Moses Wright, who has the range, not a volume player, but, he hit 2 for 2 in that first 10, 12 minutes to sort of set the tone. I mean, they were doing the same sort of thing to Clemson that we did. It was an impressive performance.
Yeah. Now Usher was a transfer, but this is not his first year playing with Georgia Tech. He played last year
at USC, I think.
No, he played for Georgia Tech last year.
Did he really?
Yeah. He did. Yeah. I think he was able to play immediately.
That's right. He came in
mid-season.
Huh? He came in mid-season. He transferred spring semester 2 years ago, so he was able to come in after January.
Yeah, he played against us.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He had a pretty good game. He's a good player, kind of streaky shooter. He can either be on or off. But anyway, we'll get into all that a little bit more soon. We've got a few things for you today. I want to start the show by spotlighting one of our Wahoo players. And for this one, I decided to go with Rhys Beekman, who is our freshman who had a really strong game against Clemson. In our season preview, I wrote that for one of the keys to the season was for one of the freshmen to step up, a la London Prentice or Kihei Clark, and give us some good minutes, but also some really exciting moments. And at the time, we didn't know which one that would be. Jabri Abdur-Rahim was the highest rated of the recruits and came in as a wing, which was probably the weakest part of the team. Carson McCorkle came in, another very good player and a great shooter. And of course, 3-point shooting was something that we desperately needed after last season.
Yeah.
And then, Rhys Beekman, he comes in and, Kihei Clark's already a point guard. So where does Rhys fit? But we started hearing things in the summer that of the three freshman, Rhys was looking the best. Rhys was looking really good, and he was looking really good in practice. And so we started to think that most likely it was going to be Rhys. The way Kihei was able to step in, even though we had Ty Jerome at the point, when Kihei was a freshman, and help with that championship team. And so, Rhys has done that. He started his No, he didn't. He came off the bench his first 2 games, and then he started 2 games for Kihei, and then he went back to the bench. But he has started the last 4 games, and it looks like he has cemented his place in the starting lineup alongside Kihei, because we know that Tony likes to have 2 point guards on the floor, and just like Kihei, Rhys had made his early mark on defense, and like London Parentis, he made his mark on offense by not turning the ball over. Prentice, originally he got the starting spot because he didn't turn the ball over. He distributed to other guys, and he could, when needed, knock down a shot. But he was a low usage guy who was just there to set the table for the veteran scorers. And Beekman has been a fantastic defensive player, which is highlighted by his ranking in the Synergy Sports statistics. Now, I don't like using Synergy stats for defense very much, but I dislike Synergy less than I dislike pretty much every other individual offensive statistic that people use, like defensive box plus minus and defense win share and defensive efficiency. Defensive efficiency is the biggest piece of crap statistic there is for individual players. It's meaningless. Synergy, at least, their statistics are based on which defender is closest to the offensive player when the play is made, like when the shot is taken or when a ball is turned over or whatever. So if I put up a shot and you're closer to me than, say, Zach, you're going to be considered my defender. And so whether my shot goes in or not, it's going to affect your defensive statistics. So at least there is that attempt for accountability. And on Synergy, Beekman overall is in the 97th percentile amongst all Division I players in terms of what he's giving up to his opponents. His defensive points per possession rating on Synergy is 0.561, which is phenomenal. I mean, if an offense is scoring 56 points per 100 possessions, they're not winning games. So Beekman,
that's scoring in the 30s. One of the things that Beekman's done that's impressed me is he slips screens. I mean, he's able to stay very, very close to his man. So a screen doesn't really affect him. I mean, we've switched sometimes, but that's not really what we're looking to do. And Beekman can stay with his man, pop in front of the screen. He knows when he's got to go behind the screen. He's been really amazing, and it's something you have to look at to see. And then we've all sort of admired his hands at times. He's got a pickpockets, mindset, and he's got good hands. And for the most part, he's not trying to play defense with his hands.
Right.
Which, of course, is when you get stupid fouls and is the first thing that, Bennett has to break of somebody, So he moves his feet and he uses his hands in a very targeted way. And, other players with good hands, have been Jerome. I think Thomas Wall, the 10th size, got really sneaky good hands. But they don't have the foot speed that that Beekman possesses.
Yeah, you mentioned Jerome, which is interesting because I have a little video comparison with Jerome and Rhys Beekman, because one thing they both have is tremendous anticipation off the ball, and each one of them have already made some pretty amazing steals away from the ball, and Ty also had those I call them pickpocket hands.
Yeah. They're the same ones.
Yeah, they're both really, really fast hands and great anticipation. And if there's a recent Virginia player that Rhys reminds me of, it would be Ty Jerome.
Sure.
They share a lot, if you think about it. They share a lot of characteristics. I would say their competitiveness, their anticipation, and their intelligence, and their nasty streak. Both out on the floor, man. Both have a really nasty streak, and I think that's something that's going to stand Rhys in great stead when we get into bigger games. So defensively, he's his steal percentage, according to KenPom, is 4.2% right now, which is 42nd in the nation. It's the highest a Virginia player has ever recorded. Now, if he maintains that pace for an entire season, that will be the highest any Virginia player has posted since Ken started tracking that statistic in 2002. Only Jontel Evans in 2010 was over 4 at 4.1%, and then Ty was next in 2018 at 3.5%. So you can see Rhys is just a tremendous stealer of the ball, and that's not a primary thing in Bennett's defense. And the things that you talked about are primary, and Rhys is very good at them, and that's why he plays so much, and he's getting a lot of notice for his defense.
Then of course the other thing is that with Beekman, the steal leads to a fast break, and mostly it's been him. He's got a very quick first step. Ty would make a steal, and Ty's not leading a fast break, not his game. But with Beekman, it's off to the races, and 2, 3, 4, plays like that a game are all we need. We've never been a high transition team, and Bennett's always said, we'll take the fast break if it's there, but it's almost never there.
Right.
Beekman creates it, and he's fearless, and it's nice. I mean, I mentioned earlier, that steal was against Notre Dame, where it was just a lazy inbound pass, and he stepped in and took the ball. But he went right to the hoop, and, there were 3 guys still in the lane. And I'm thinking any other freshman would have stolen the ball and, maybe brought it out. But it was as impressive as the time that, DeAndre Hunter, stole the ball against UNC and dunked on Joel Berry. But that was Hunter as a third year player. This is, this is Rhys Beekman as a freshman, 8 games in, and it was fearless. He's been quite the find.
Yeah, his transition from defense to offense is the best that I've seen at UVA. You may not be aware, I was showing a little video there while you were talking because you brought up one of the things that I had a video for, and his offense is developing, but you can already see his strengths. He's fantastic at getting to the rim and then finishing when he gets there. His off-the-dribble offense is really good. For example, he is taking 58% of his shots at the rim, and he's hitting 58% of those. And we haven't had a freshman guard come anywhere close to those numbers since Malcolm Brogdon. When Brogdon was a freshman, he took like 40% of his shots at the rim and hit 54%. The only freshman that we've had since then who did better at the rim was Ty Jerome, who hit 64% of his shots at the rim as a freshman, but he only took 12% of his shots there. So Beekman is getting there far more often and still hitting at a very efficient rate. Of course, Kihei, his first season wasn't great at it. And that ability to get to the rim is big for us. Off the dribble, Rhys, his points per possession off the dribble overall are 1.25, which is very good. But if you look at when he's running the pick and roll as the ball handler, if you take the plays where he puts up the shot and add in the plays where he makes the pass to who puts up the shot, they call it pick and roll, including pass, he's producing 1.722 points per possession, which is 100% ranking at Synergy. He's in the very top of all Division I players.
So the key is, how can we get him, more time? And it's hard running the post because, we got Clark. But, Clark can play off ball. So, as we continue to develop, we should just have more options for him. So, I'm looking forward to seeing him run more. And that was one of the nice things I thought about, putting Clemson away and blowing him out, is that Clark was the first starter that Bennett pulled. So, Beekman had, probably about 6 minutes on the floor, before the green team came on, where he was the sole point guard. and hoping to see more glimpses when it's just him on the court, just so that he can grow. I mean, I'm not going to get into a Kihei versus Bennett or Beekman.
Yeah.
Who's the best? Argument. I want them both on the floor a lot of the time. So
Right. Yeah, comparing those two would be another good segment. But I would just want to touch on one more thing before we move away from Rhys and on to Georgia Tech, and that his free throw shooting. His season average is 75% right now, but he missed 3 of his first 4, and he's made his last 8 straight. So I think we're going to see an 85 to 90% free throw shooter going forward. And all the things that we've talked about are the profile of a player who's going to be on the floor at the end of games.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
he has everything you want from players in at the end of close games, and he's going to be important today because Georgia Tech comes in as a very good offensive team, a very good shooting team, and they're a guard-dominated team. They have a veteran perimeter core, and they're going to be tough to defend. So
that's your transition to your next segment.
That
so,
is,
yeah.
Georgia Tech right now is 3-1 in the ACC, which is enough to put them in, I think, in
fifth. I think
fifth place.
And and just came off of a long layoff too. They missed 3 games. Looks like the first 2 were their call. It was on their end, and then they got caught up in the NC State with NC State's problems that, of course, caused us to miss our midweek game against NC State. So they were off 3 games. So they're going to have the same issues as we did. But they looked really good, and we've always talked. It's almost a truism now. That the ACC is a senior guard dominated league, and Jose Alvarado is proof of that. This is his 4th year. He's been an extremely competent performer. He's very experienced, doesn't back down. I'm sure that every Georgia Tech fan feels about Alvarado the way we did Ty Jerome. He's a tough guy. He's gritty. He's the leader of the team. And as of right now, maybe he's the 3rd best player on the team. I know that Michael DeVoe, who's their off guard, their number 2 guard, I mean, he was my choice to be on the first.
Yeah, sorry.
You're playing some video. Okay, well, that's cool.
Yeah, technical glitch there. When I played that video, it actually muted Skype. So sorry about that.
Oh. So you missed all my commentary.
Yeah,
there you
and
go.
Val's
You
commentary is great. Basically, Jose Alvarado is their senior point guard leader, and he might be the 3rd best player on the team behind Mike DeVoe and Moses Wright. And the video you saw, DeVoe hitting 3s against Clemson. He was like 6 for 6 against Clemson. He might have missed one in garbage time, but when I was watching, all right, he was 6 for 6. And in Moses Wright, you saw some of him destroying the rim and hitting a 3, as Val was saying that he was 2 for 2 from 3-point range. So the one thing you said that I want to pick on is you said he's the best playing big man in the ACC right now. I think there's a guy named Jay Huff who might take issue with that statement, and that's going to be an incredibly important matchup today, and it's going to be an incredible challenge for Jay because Moses is just the kind of player who can give a player like Jay Huff a lot of trouble when Moses is on offense. He's powerful. He's quick. He's quick off the floor. He's energetic. He's long. yeah, he can go outside and shoot the three. He can drive it, and he's tremendous on the offensive boards. So he's going to be, really, it's going to be. And we don't really have anybody else other than maybe Justin McCoy or Caden Shedrick who can defend him. I don't want Sam Hauser trying to defend him.
No.
I don't. And, Jay's going to have to avoid fouls, which he's struggled with the last few games after having really improved in that point in his career up until now. And probably easier to do when you've got Braxton Key and Mamadi Diakite on the front line with you defensively. But
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think this is the Moses Wright matchup is the big one. Mm-hmm. And because we just talked about Beekman, up in his defense. I mean, Kihei still got great defense. I don't have any thoughts about, Kihei versus Alvarado. Morcel's playing with more confidence. So
it'd be interesting to see if Kihei plays Alvarado. We could go two ways there because they also play Bubba Parham at the guard, and Alvarado's 6 foot, Parham is 5'10", so we might see Kihei take Parham and Beekman take Alvarado. We'll see. An argument against that might be that Beekman's so good on ball defense, but he's also so good off the ball. Anticipating passes, the video that I showed, mm-hmm. He was most of those steals came off anticipating passes. So we'll see how Tony decides to go. We're going to see a lot of 3-guard lineup because they play 3 guards, and and they're playing at the power forward. They're playing Jordan Usher, who's really a wing. They're a small ball team, mm-hmm. And so we're going to have to counter that. That Jordan Usher Sam Hauser matchup is going to be an interesting one to watch also. And I think we're going to want to have Hauser posting Usher up often.
Well, I think that's the thing is they do play small. Mm-hmm. And, that causes matchup problems for us, but we have to make their matchup problems, a problem for them. Mm-hmm. I mean, they don't have anybody who can stop Huff. They don't have anybody who can stop Hauser. And I kind of figured they'd have Usher maybe trying to play Murphy. Murphy's not going to be. I mean, Usher's long, and
actually they
Murphy's
might put
longer.
Usher on Huff,
yeah,
and put Wright on Hauser.
Okay,
which is basically what San Francisco did, and they pioneered that. And then I think we saw Gonzaga do the same thing, where they put their bigger interior defender on Hauser because he's so tough to stop in the post. Mm-hmm. And Huff is at his best out on the perimeter, and the smaller guy has a better job of taking away his 3-point shot and also his ability to drive because his drives come off of the closeout.
Pump fake or something like that.
Yeah, on the big man. So, and both those teams were very effective doing that. So we might see Georgia Tech do the same thing. But then, Hauser can go out to the corner and
they've got to they're going to put somebody who's going to be dwarfed by Murphy.
Right.
So
yeah,
if they've got Usher, if they have Usher and Wright, watching our
Murphy.
two bigs, so it's a good matchup, and that's the whole point of the game is, who gets to dictate to the other guy. Mm-hmm. And if, they're dictating the matchups to us, they're in the driver's seat. If we're able to dictate the matchups, then we'll be in the driver's seat.
And that's something Tony's been a little bit better at the last couple of years, is not setting his lineups reactively, because he tended to counter what the other team would do. If they went small, he'd go small. If they went big, he'd go big. Where he was kind of reacting to the other team. In the last couple of years, he's gone more into forcing teams to react to him. And so we'll see.
Which you've all been happy about.
Yeah.
It's like we want to be the dictators, Mm-hmm. So what's your next segment?
Yeah, I wanted to get into the opponent's scheme. Where defensively, Georgia Tech, they switch their defenses a lot. They run a 1-3-1
It is a long and wide, 1-3-1. Certainly was against Clemson, and so that means that the back space, that back lane, you've got to be able to attack it, because there will be only one person, within 4 or 5 feet of the basket at times. So we've got to be able to attack the back door quickly and ruthlessly.
Right.
And they're going to pick us up. They can play 94 feet of press.
Mm-hmm.
They can sort of retreat back in that 1-3-1. They can play a matchup zone.
They play a lot of man defense too.
And man, yeah.
And here's an example of them, how they defend the pick and roll. And you see Clemson gets a nice pick and pop out of that, which is a definite opportunity for us with Jay if they defend the way they did in that clip that we saw. So the way Georgia Tech will hurt us, defensively, they force a lot of turnovers. They're number 1 in the ACC at forcing turnovers, both steals and dead ball turnovers. And it's really what their defense is built on. Because if you don't turn the ball over, they give up a lot of offensive rebounds and they give up a pretty high shooting percentage. So if we don't turn the ball over, we should be able to get good shots. But it's hard to not turn it over. And they're also very good at turning those turnovers into transition. So they can hurt us that. Our transition defense has been vulnerable this year. It's not been up to usual standards. Yeah. And then when they have the ball, they're a veteran offense. They're a veteran team. And as we said, they play small. Their ball movement is outstanding. And consequently, their shooting percentages are very good. They're amongst the best in the conference at shooting the ball. And that comes from great ball movement and dribble penetration. They run a lot of pick and roll. The base of their offense is pick and roll. And they try to get you into rotations, and then they find the open man. They're very good at finding the open man. So those are the challenges that Georgia Tech's going to present to us. And then we saw in that clip their defense being vulnerable. If you have the right set and you move the ball well against the 1-3-1, you can get great looks against them. We have traditionally struggled against 1-3-1 defenses. I remember one game a few years ago I was watching, and the commentator, I think it was Bill Raftery, was pointing out how we look to be using a 2-3 zone offense against the 1-3-1, and we were just turning the ball over and having a terrible time. Now, I think recently we've attacked the 1-3-1 differently. I think maybe Tony put some specific 1-3-1 prep time in after seeing it a few times, but we still, we've played a couple teams this year that played a zone with a man up at the point, up at the top, and we struggled. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to prove to me that we can, get the ball to the right spots and the right sequences. To me, that's going to be the key to the game.
I think so too. So with that, I have to run.
Okay.
So, everybody enjoy the game tonight. It's 8:00, ACC Network. It'll be the game to watch. Went a whole week without a game, so I am ready and primed. So.
All right. I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes after Val takes off. So, Val, have a good one, and we'll talk to you for the podcast.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. All right, everybody. So there's just one or two things left to talk about. We talked about how Georgia Tech can hurt us, and I want to finish up with how we can hurt Georgia Tech. One we saw is the pick and roll and the pick and pop. They, Clemson had a lot of success with it, and what I saw a lot in watching the game was their rotations can be bad. They can get inattentive. And so if we run the play, run through the options, we should be able to get good looks there. Another way is Sam Hauser in the post. If they try to guard Hauser with Jordan Usher, that's a player that Hauser's bigger than, and we probably see him down in the post. And then when we're on defense, we need to stay home. We need to get good pressure on the ball. especially with the guards, and we need to be able to stop their dribble penetration without having to resort to help and getting into rotation. So we'll see how we defend the pick and roll, because if we're doing a lot of doubling and we're getting into rotation, they're going to get a lot of good looks. And judging by how they've performed so far this year, they're going to hit them. All right, so one last point to bring up about Georgia Tech, and that is that they have no depth, which St. Wahoo goes through very effectively in his preview. He highlights how they really only play, they only play 7 guys, period. Every one of their starters, their starters, Alvarado, 35.8 minutes per game. Moses Wright, 35.5. Michael DeVoe, 34.8. Bubba Parham, 31.8. And then Jordan Usher, 27.2. So they're relying on those 5 guys. And then their main reserves are Kyle Sturdivant, who's a 6'2 guard, and Khalid Moore, who's a 6'7 forward, kind of string being forward. So they don't really have anyone to duplicate what Moses Wright does. So if we can focus on Wright and maybe get him in foul trouble or get him tired or frustrated or whatever, then they're going to really, really struggle in the paint. So Jay Huff is a key man. Sam Hauser is a key man. Maybe Francisco Cafaro. This might be a good game for him to come in, and he'll have trouble with Wright out on the perimeter, but might be able to keep him from getting some of those offensive rebounds, or at the very least pound on him as a part of a strategy of wearing him down. So this is not going to be a typical Virginia-Georgia Tech game from the last few years. It's not going to be 54-28. If we're blowing them out this year, it's going to be like 92-67. These are defenses that are not up to the traditional standard of the coaches, and there are offenses that are a lot better than we've seen under these coaches before. So, expect a lot of points to be scored. Now that I've said that, just like the national championship game with us and Texas Tech, the 2 best defenses in the country, was 85-77, which is on my championship mug. Now that I've said that about these 2 teams, it's going to be a 58-46, knuckle dragger of a knockdown drag out UFC cage fight. But I think the prognosis is good. I think our depth is going to, make a difference. I think we have the backcourt defenders. Casey Morsell probably going to play a lot, and I don't know about Will Detensai because let's see. Out of DeVoe, Parham, and Alvarado, who do you want Will Detensai defending? I don't know. Maybe DeVoe. But so Casey Morsell is going to be extremely important, and I think our depth is going to have an effect, and we're going to win 78-69. So everybody, enjoy the game tonight, 8 o'clock on the ACC Network, and then join us on the Who's Place Studio WhoCast, our podcast, which will probably be Monday morning or Tuesday morning at the latest. All right. So this is Seattle Hoo out. Wahoo wah. Enjoy, everybody. Have a great day.